Hello, anybody and everybody out there watching. This is Symbionic Systems' fifth lecture video installment of the theory of symbionics, or urban ecological niche bionics (UENB). This is emergency infrastructure for runaway climate change and hothouse Earth. The Symbionic Subterranean Re-Earthing Network, or SSREN for short. Let's go. So, for those of you kind of familiar or even unfamiliar with my previous lecture videos, I definitely would recommend going back and watching my third lecture video entitled Symbionics Simplified. Uh, there, I introduce a thought experiment and design concept that was more highly speculative and borderline sci-fi, called the Hothouse Earth Subterranean Open System Biodome Terraforming Arc Infrastructure. Obviously, that was quite the mouthful. Again, it was more or less conceptual thought experiment and um, than a fully formed design. But now I have redesigned it and based on more robust and solid scientific and engineering principles. So, as it says at the bottom, enter the Symbionic Subterranean Re-Earthing Network (SSREN), a radically more rigorous redesign of an old concept. So, here we go. So, what is an SSREN anyway? SSRENs are envisioned as an emergency underground infrastructure to combat and reverse the worst projected effects of runaway climate change and global warming. Built to house as much biodiversity, built to house as much biodiversity, i.e., animals, plants, fungi, essential microecologies, and microorganisms, alongside serving as deep underground comfortable mass human habitation and maintenance areas. Designed to, and I apologize for the typo, designed to reverse terraform Earth surfaces through mass ecosystem and planetary cycle restoration, including soil and sedimentary layers, along with oceans, lakes, rivers, natural aquifers, wetlands, etc. So, planning for emergency underground, regional, and global mass human and ecosystem refuge. In order to fully realize this highly ambitious theoretical and experimental concept, it goes without saying we shouldn't wait for the global biosphere to deteriorate to the point of hothouse Earth scenarios. Instead, ideally, construction of some of these deep subterranean biodiversity arcs would shortly begin after the experiment successful experimental implementations of early and mature symbiotic and UENB buildings and homes on the surface, starting the real world design, experimentation, and fabrication of these unique underground built environments in the near future could already be utilized in tackling some of the major scientific and technical challenges associated with its construction. In this way, it would serve as the ultimate backup plan for all life. So, where would we begin building these subterranean biodiversity arc biomes? There are several places that would be ideal testing grounds for the Symbionic Subterranean Re-Earthing or Earth Seeding Network (SSRN). I use re-earthing and earth seeding interchangeably, but mainly re-earthing network. One, large scale caves and caverns, inactive or dead volcanoes and lava tubes, properly surveyed decommissioned mines with sound structural integrity. 3. Abandoned and decommissioned underground scientific research facilities like particle accelerators and properly decommissioned and decontaminated underground civilian nuclear testing facilities. 4. Abandoned and decommissioned underground ex-military research facilities and bases. In the next slide, I'll go over the advantages of beginning the SSREN construction in these type of underground environments and locations. On the right-hand side, you see a picture of 3 cave divers, or explorers or geologists. And then underneath that is like some type of tourist underground subterranean attraction with a ramp built a ramp or bridge built over top of the river or lake underground, some kind of tourist attraction, I think. And then um, underneath that, I don't know if you can see it very well because of the limited space, but that's the concept design for a multi-story building made out of a decommissioned nuclear silo from the Cold War in the U.S. As I'm given to understand, some doomsday preppers have already made underground new abandoned nuclear silos into multi-story homes, so that already proves their viability as underground habitats to start the construction of the SSRENs. So another way to look at the SSREN is like a subterranean symbionic or UENB building network, but I'll get more into that later. So there are several places that would be ideal testing grounds for this symbionic subterranean earth-seeding network or re-earthing network. Advantages for building in these locations and settings. 1. Abandoned or decommissioned military bases and scientific research facilities already contain a high degree of structural integrity as well as hygienic or semi-hygienic conditions. Most natural caves, caverns, and other subterranean environments already contain their own biomes and dormant life, alongside relatively easy access to fresh or treatable bodies of water and vital minerals. 3. Successful surface symbionic UENB buildings and homes with experimental underground sections or floors. So what I mean by that is if, as I mentioned in my previous lecture video, symbionic or UENB buildings that have their own artificial biogeochemical cycles internally or externally or both connected to the natural biogeochemical cycles of the surrounding environment, regenerating the ecosystems of its locality. If they had an underground section, or if you can imagine a symbionic or UENB tower or residential building with an underground tower or skyscraper like the one in Mexico City, that would be like an ideal bridging, what I would call bridging infrastructure to start experimenting on the SSREN construction and experimentation and fabrication earlier. A few places I didn't list on the list that would also serve as good underground infrastructure would be like the picture here. This is a picture of an abandoned underground subway system that would serve as a good testing environment for a symbionic subterranean re-earthing network, as well as natural underground evacuation natural disaster facilities like the ones they have all over Japan. Many of those would serve as good SSREN building foundations. But I'm going to continue before I rant on forever. Oh, and underneath here you have a picture of a particle accelerator. Particle accelerators would also be ideal to convert into an SSREN over time because they're deep underground and super hygienic, because they have to be. And they're almost a completely sealed environment, I believe, at sections, which is ideal for a semi-open system or a controlled open system. And at the bottom, I don't know if you can see well because of my face, but you have a submarine hangar or underground base representing a decommissioned military or naval base. 3. Converting, retrofitting, and powering SSRENs. The Symbionic or UENB subterranean Earth City network, power sources, and grids. So, solar energy with through a combination of light wells and heliotropic, robotic, soft robotic, motor/actuator controlled, mirror farmed, combination based solar power. So what I mean by that is solar power harnessed through light wells, which already exist, like the ones used in the concept for the underground skyscraper in Mexico City, and natural openings in the cave systems and caverns could be converted into light wells. If we could put mirror farms underneath those light wells to better reflect and capture the sun's light, and then attach robotic or soft robotic or soft mechanical or mechanical um, motors or actuators to the mirror farms so that they can heliotropically follow the sun as it moves through the sky from underground to better concentrate the solar energy for energy harvesting. At the bottom, at the right hand side, you have an illustration of natural and artificial photosynthesis. Underneath that, you have an underground system of solar mirrors, uh, simulating the sun or a solar farm without the sun, growing trees and surrounding flora, uh, un- underneath of it. So that's pretty impressive without solar direct solar energy. So combining that with a light system of light wells that have real solar light coming through them could be ideal. And then, um, yeah. So for number two, I have artificial photosynthesis and glucose fuel cells. Glucose fuel cells would make a great source of biofuel substitute for fossil fuel or petrochemicals because glucose cells are glucose fuel cells are highly combustible, and they are whenever artificial photosynthesis is successful, a byproduct usually is glucose fuel cells. So, um, literally, the energy process of the photocatalytic reactions that powers other things creates a byproduct of glucose fuel cells and maybe even ethanol fuel cells, if I'm not incorrect, depending on what method for artificial photosynthesis you're using. So you basically get a net plus, you get net plus energy from using artificial photosynthesis. And I also meant to put electrolysis based hydrogen fuel cells because the hydrogen fuel cells would also serve as a great secondary or third source of stored fuel for a backup power supply or multi multi input energy system. I imagine both of these fuel sources being used together. So if one source is unreliable during certain times of the day or year, you can turn to another one inside the system. Three, underground geothermal and hydrogeothermal vent connected electrical generators. So geothermal energy and hydrogeothermal energy are already well established, sustainable, large scale alternative energy systems like those in Iceland and I believe parts of California and maybe even Chile have successfully used hydrogeothermal energy because of their high volcanic, highly, excuse me, highly volcanically active areas. Um, and number four, bioreactors, specifically number five, microbial fuel cells, MFCs. MFCs or microbial fuel cells are an example of biogeochemical energy, uh, biogeochemical, biogeo, excuse me, biogeochemistry being harvested to create energy. Basically, in layman's terms, organic waste in the form of animal, plant, or human waste is converted into energy by into fuel by microorganisms and worms and other soil-based organisms, breaking down the organic material into biofuel with biogeochemistry. This would also be a great third um, fuel source for the SSRAN system. And six, Symbionic soft robotic drones. Now, what I mean by that is a series of SSRAN specific Symbionic soft robotic drones that could be used to help build and dig for, or sorry, build and yeah, build and construct better access to these energy systems or energy sources. I mean, um, so what I mean by that is you could imagine a subterranean symbionic drone being built, say, in the shape of a worm or a mole to dig down deep in the Earth's crust for better access to hydrogeothermal energy and or maybe even natural um, aquifers to have access to fresh water underground. So you can imagine a series of symbionic soft robotic or robotic drones being used to help utilize the energy uh, utilize sorry to help maximize the energy access to the energy system energy sources sorry to help maxim sorry you can imagine these soft robotic the symbiotic drones as a way to maximize access to the energy sources and utilize the energy efficiency of the entire grid. So, the advantages of these combined fuel sources is that they are already fully developed or mature experimental technologies. When combined, they negate the possibility of a single point of failure in the energy grid system. So that's why I've included more than 5 primary sources of energy to be a multi input energy system to make it more robust and avoid a single point of failure. Moving on. So, 4. SSRENs, potential construction materials, substrates, and composites. The Symbionic UENB subterranean re-earthing network, fabrication and construction. Excuse me. So, rammed earth for building the foundations of the biodomes along with the interior exterior, especially for thermal regulation. Admittedly, this has to be tested more thoroughly underground, which is why I would want experimentation, or is an example of why I would want experimentation to start earlier before the worst case scenario, so that we could already test which biomaterials are best suited for subterranean environments. Anyway, yeah, so rammed earth for the interior exteriors for potential thermal regulation, miso blocks and miso texture for building biome foundations, exterior and interiors. So, compacted mycelium for or mycelium crete, I think it's called, or rammed mycelium, whichever it is a very successful, flexible biomaterial that's already being used and implemented in a variety of different applications, inventions, and research um, programs. Programs. 3. Hempcrete. Hempcrete is very versatile, and you can. It's tensily strong when created the correct way. Um, yeah, and it doesn't take a lot of labor intensity to grow hemp and refine it into a building material. And the same is even more true for hemp. I'm sorry, the same is even more true for mycelium. Uh, excuse me. Number 5, composites. Composite 1, silicon dioxide or quartz and mycelium composite. This proposed excuse me. This this proposed composite material will create a material with a high loading capacity along with the potential of self-healing properties that could act to fill in whatever cracks and fractures exist in the silicon dioxide sections of the mycelium quartz composite, acting to seal in any of the damages to the quartz-based structure as the mycelium would harden over top and inside any given uh, damaged part of the crystalline part of the structure. So basically, if you had a piece of the quartz composite that cracked, the mycelium could ooze in, um, being interwoven into the composite and fill in the cracks and stabilize the foundation before any humans got there to check on the integrity of the system and adjust it or repair it, allowing for a kind of self-repairing or self-healing properties. Um, Composite 2, silicon dioxide or quartz and spider silk. This composite material would conceivably create a series of artificial connective tissues, tendons, or ligaments that would be highly adapted to to the high pressure and seismic regions typical of many, if not most, deep subterranean or underground environments. The spider silk element in the composite material would also act as a kind of kinetic energy store because it's very flexible. It could You can imagine a system where it could easily be repurposed to collect energy in the form of convert kinetic energy into electricity by absorbing it by absorbing it through like seismic activity or volcanic activity underground. Oh, and number four, I forgot to mention organic metal subs- organic metal substrates for electrical conductivity in the SS, SSREN systems and subsystems, and communication in seismically active underground regions. So those are the five basic biomaterials I would like to see the SSRN be built out of. Um, I just want to make a note that biomaterials may not be the best suited for every system or subsystem of the SSRN, but I would ideally like to see how far we could um, take biomaterials in building the SSRN completely. So I'm going to continue. Oops. So five, SSRENs, computational systems and software, the eco-mechanical nervous system or brain. So the SSREN's eco-mechanical nervous system or brain, if you will, consists of four sublayers of software or subsystems of software. One, green artificial intelligence. Green AI would provide the programming and internal software procedures to maximize energy efficiency of any digital system outside or within the SSREN. This could allow the network to save on energy and allow it to reroute any needed electrical energy to other systems in order. I'm sorry, reroute electrical energy to other systems in emergency or ordinary situations, leading to the eventual entire digital optimization of the whole system. Machine learning and artificial neural networks. 1 second here. Machine learning and artificial neural networks. This could allow the digital component of the SSRENs to process vast amounts of information and refine its analysis and functionality over time by optimizing the artificial neural pathways. Um, 3. Artificial life software. This branch of biology and ecology inspired software could allow the internal and external systems. Oops. Oops. 1 second. One second. Oh. Sorry, let me start again. This branch of biology and ecology inspired software could allow the internal and external systems of the SSRENs to closely mimic the environments and behavior of subterranean organisms and ecosystems to allow for better adaptability and optimization of every system and subsystem to better accommodate for comfortable underground. Oops, sorry, 1 second. My goodness. For to accommodate for comfortable life deep underground, alongside operating any needed assistive robots or drones to behave more like subterranean or even surface organisms, depending on their function, creating a sort of soft robotic drone artificial ecosystem in itself. Um, yeah, depending on their function. And finally, it could prevent a single point of failure in a software system because of robust first programming that allows for the subs, and could also allow for any subsystem within the SSREN to act semi-autonomously from the overall computational system without being connected to the overall system itself. So yeah, allows for allows for potential subsystems of the eco digital brain of the SSREN to act semi-autonomously. Um, Four, eco cybernetics. The fourth and final layer of the software system. The fourth and final layer of the software system for the SSRENs could allow for better communication and coordination between the three previously mentioned software systems, allowing for better feedback, optimization of all of them into one feedback optimization of all of them into a cohesive computational data analyzing system and archive. So, so basically, what I mean by that is eco-cybernetics could be used to create software programs to communicate between all three branches of the software, as well as different mechanical systems and subsystems with the digital system, and vice versa, as well as different mechanical components with each other. Let's continue. So here's a visual representation of the four components of the SSREN's computational brain, or the eco-mechanical nervous system or brain. Um, Artificial neural networks or machine learning. Green or sustainable artificial intelligence. Machine learning. Artificial life software, i.e., software developed in a digital environment meant to simulate evolutionary pressures to create more robust programming, and a book on eco cybernetics, but just to show eco cybernetics as a concept. So that's the SSREN's computational systems and software, the ego mechanical nervous system and brain. So, moving on. SSRENs, a phased approach to re-terraforming Earth, a direct engineering response to hothouse Earth or runaway climate change. So before I continue, here are some AI-generated concepts of the SSREN habitats. As I always say in my previous lecture videos, the AI art here, or AI illustrations, are more of a visual aid and an educational tool to help you kind of understand what I'm going for. These two are probably the closest visually to what I imagine the SSRENs looking like in real life. However, they wouldn't look exactly like this in every way, but it is a useful visual aid and educational tool to help you kind of get what I'm going for here conceptually, and it does look really cool. I know I never wanted to live underground before I came up with this idea, but now I kind of really want to. But anyway, so so as I mentioned before, with the long-term plan of the SSRENs being to re-terraform the Earth's surfaces, literally from the ground up, and the oceans, how would they do that? So, phase one, into the Ark, stabilize, seal in, and salvage all life. So, assuming the construction and scaled experimentation of the SSRENs has already proceeded before the worst case scenario for climate change, i.e., hothouse Earth. Excuse me. Begin emergency evacuation of as much surface life and biodiversity, terrestrial and or aquatic, to the underground biodome biomes through a series of already existing tunnels, alongside all salvageable, recyclable, and reusable industrial and mechanical material for repurposing. Alongside all salvageable, recyclable, reusable, industrial, and mechanical material for repurposing for the SSRENs. Ideally, by design, there would already be sophisticated biosensory and ecosensory monitoring systems in order to initially stabilize and expand the already biodiversity rich underground biodomes network, drawing on the already gained experimental and practical experience before the high house Earth scenario were to ever kick in. So this is why I say we should start building these before the worst case scenario. Because even if we don't have to plan for a hothouse Earth worst case scenario, the SSRN's reverse terraforming or terraforming um, properties have have applications to terraforming bodies in the solar system, as I'll explore in a later video. Note the the SSRNs the SSRN biodomes are intended to, are intended are intended to be designed as semi-enclosed or controlled open systems like cell membranes, because cells are not fully enclosed. Um, excuse me, cells are not fully closed loop systems. Their cell membranes allow for them to bring in material and excrete 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 material, to the outside to get rid of waste. So that, and allowing for a semi open or controlled open system as opposed to a fully closed system allows for human uh, human and manual readjustment, as well as biological and ecological readjustment, or even computational, robotic, and artificial intelligent readjustment of the subterranean biospheres. Um, avoiding the engineer Potentially avoiding the engineering single point of failures as the Biosphere 2. Just to note, the Biosphere 2 experiments in Arizona in the 90s primarily failed, if I understand correctly, because they were purely imagined as completely closed looped ecosystems, which is why they ran out of oxygen very quickly, because they couldn't insert oxygen from the outside without creating a semi open system, which kind of broke the whole design principles of what they were going for in the beginning, which was a fully self regenerating closed loop system. But this is why I insist that it would be a semi open or controlled open system, not a fully closed loop system. But anyway, going on. I'm moving on. Excuse me. So, phase 2, fire up the bio and eco engines. Expand biodiversity. Expand and diversify the underground biosphere to begin surface restoration. 1. Use the already existing introduction of advanced artificial biomineralization, soil microorganisms, soil life forms such as worms, moles, etc., anaerobic and aerobic life forms in order to start generating a more robust underground atmosphere. Ideally, atmospheric ecologies should already be well developed within the biodome biomes, whether microbiological or macrobiological level, or both. Ideally both, because you need both. Harvest or process atmosphere for the biodome biomes, i.e., oxygen rich minerals, the mass introduction or expansion of air purifying plants and trees, as well as finally the introduction of essential atmospheric microbes and organisms like aeroplankton and tardigrades. 2. This may actually be step 1, depending how the process goes experimentally, given how ecologies on Earth's surface today, in the soil, in the oceans, and on the surface of the continents given that the atmosphere as we know it today was basically a byproduct of the interaction between geology and life on the continents and in the oceans. So yeah, that's what I meant there. Phase 3, a new kind of transplantation, exploring the underground. Exporting the. Let me start that over. Phase 3, a new kind of transplantation, exporting the underground biosphere and atmosphere to the surfaces and oceans. I have often described symbionics or urban ecological niche bionics (UENB), utilizing the analogy of creating a system or series of interconnected ecological bionic prosthetics in order to stabilize the health of the earth, like you would an injured patient suffering from severed limbs or dysfunctional organs. In this case, the prosthetics would serve to fill a severed or dysfunctioning eco- ecological niche disrupted by urban development and modern industrial society. This analogy describing Symbionics UENB is helpful is useful in helping to understand the next phase leading to the localized bioremediation of Earth's deep soil, the surfaces, and the oceans. 2. Begin the process of transporting or transplanting the subterranean atmosphere and biospheres gradually back onto the surface via deep wells, pores um, built from the ground up. Once thoroughly establishing microclimates on the surface, and when conditions are right, or sorry, when conditions are stable enough to build up advanced greenhouses, or excuse the typo there, or biodomes equipped with symbiotic slash U E and B buildings built literally from the ground up that would act like scaffolding for the Earth's surface. Once pockets of the Earth's surface are deemed safe enough to begin slow rehabilitation. Excuse me. Two, eventually connect the series of biodiversity and human life transplantation tunnels with the ground up built symbiotic UENB buildings, land biomes and greenhouses to begin reseeding fungi, mycelium, animals, plants, and eventually humans to the surface inside the structures that would also begin enhancing re-earthing their own re-earthing capabilities, like generating their own localized atmospheric pockets for air transport. Excuse me. Excuse my typo there. I'm just gonna start that sentence over again. Eventually connect the series of biodiversity and human life transportation tunnels with the ground up built symbiotic UENB buildings, land biomes, and greenhouses to begin reseeding fungi, mycelium, plants, animals, and eventually humans to the surface inside these structures that would also begin further refining their own re-earthing capabilities, like regenerating their own localized atmospheric pockets for rebuilding, um, air transport or transplantation, rebuilding nearby sedimentary and topsoil layers, and gradually deacidifying the oceans and detoxifying the air in the surrounding environment. Phase 3, a new kind of transportation. So this is a visual representation of what of how this is a visual representation with AI of how the SSREN uh, would begin to transform into an intermediate level of surface terraforming infrastructure. So again, you can literally see it moving from a strictly underground environment to slowly moving back to the surface and then exporting the biosphere and atmosphere underground back to the surface once conditions are cool enough on the surface through mass um, carbon sequestration and underground biogeochemical restoration. So that's a visual representation of what the SSREN would look like at an intermediate level between the surface and a subterranean between and excuse me. This is what an SSREN would look like between at an intermediate level between a subterranean environment and just beginning to come back to the surface. I hope you understand my meaning there. So, phase 4, remove prosthetic life supports and enjoy Earth. Claim a healed, regenerated Earth for all life and humanity. Um, so, the last part for phase 4 includes 2 steps. 1 second. Repurpose all the biosensory and eco-sensory systems, multi-layered computational brain of the SSRENs, alongside the artificial biogeochemical cycles within and outside the symbiotic U, E, and B buildings, biomes, and greenhouses. 1 second. Greenhouses and other life. Sorry, with others alongside the symbiotic U, E, and B buildings, biomes, greenhouses, and other life conducive urban spaces to allow for cautious, controlled, and semi open habitation and access of the surface and bodies of water, oceans, natural aqueducts, lakes, ponds, rivers, wetlands, etc. One stable and large scale global artificial biogeochemical assisted natural biogeochemical restoration is achieved. So that's step 1 for phase 4. Step 2, and never ever destroy or wreck Earth again. I hope that also goes without saying. Otherwise, this whole presentation would be for nothing, and the whole development of a mass civilization and life saving SSRN system would be totally pointless and defeated. So, closing remarks: symbiotics and urban ecological niche bionics is superior to traditional geoengineering. Here's how. So, here is a chart I made showing how the symbiotic subterranean re-earthing network and other symbiotic systems working in tandem with it would be superior to traditional geoengineering. So, methodology: intervention, large-scale mechanical or chemical interventions, often with unpredictable side effects. That's traditional geoengineering. So, methodology for the SSREN: regeneration utilizes symbiotic relations and biological processes to heal ecosystems from the ground up, quite literally. Scale: traditional geoengineering focuses on singular problem, e.g., atmospheric carbon, solar radiation at a time. Scale: SSREN, multifaceted, addresses atmospheric, terrestrial, and oceanic health simultaneously. Goal: traditional geoengineering aims to slow down or mask the effects of climate change rather than reverse the damage. Goal of the SSREN: reversal. 1 second. Sorry. So, from the top, goal for traditional geoengineering aims to slow down or mask the effects of climate change rather than reverse the damage. SSRENs and other symbiotic systems. Reversal: actively recreates planetary ecosystems and reverse environmental degradation. Resilience: traditional geoengineering, brittle, often relies on static, centralized technologies with single points of failure. SSREN and other symbiotic systems. A decentralized, self-healing, and intelligent network that learns and adapts to its environment. Risk: traditional geoengineering, high potential for catastrophic side effects such as disrupting weather patterns or ocean patterns. Sorry, weather patterns or ocean currents. uh, the SSRAN and other symbiotic systems, low, works with natural systems to foster beneficial, beneficial, beneficial predictable outcomes. Excuse me, with with synergistic benefits. So here's another visual representation of the SSRAN, and that is how symbiotics and urban ecological niche bionics, as demonstrated with the symbiotic subterranean re-earthing network, is vastly superior to traditional geoengineering. Uh, Thank you to anyone watching this video, and keep your eye out and your ears out soon because I have big news coming down the pike, hopefully, and that could change everything for my body of work. And I will keep you guys posted when I find out. All right, have a good night, everybody, and I hope you enjoyed the video. And I tried to power through all my stumbling and the few typos I had, but hopefully you enjoyed the video and understood the amazing revolutionary concept that is my symbiotic subterranean re-earthing network. Okay, guys, have a great night and keep fighting for the planet and yourselves. All right, good night.